So hi guys, welcome to my BookTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing Raymond Carver and his two of his short stories, So Much Water So Close to Home, as well as what we talk about when we talk about love. To get started, I'm going to give you some background information about Raymond Carver. He had began drinking heavily in 1967, and I believe this is important because he obviously struggled with alcoholism and drinking, and he was hospitalized for it. But as you could see in his short stories, a lot of them involve alcohol in some way, shape, or form, and I feel like that's his way of saying this is an important portion of everyday problems of everyday lives of average people. And a lot of his short stories involve, like I was saying, the everyday problems of everyday people, and so it's just saying hey, look at this, and his writing was very powerful, and it's very real, and showing that hey, these are things that we need to discuss and we need to fix today. Both of his like I was saying, how a lot of his short stories involve alcohol. In the two stories that I'll be discussing today, they both involve alcohol. So let's get started. For the first article, I'll be talking about what we talk about when we talk about love. This one, it's a nice story. I like this one. And basically what's going on is that there's two couples, and they're discussing about their own definitions of what true love is. And Terry the story begins and it's talking about Mel McGinnis, and Mel, he basically is saying that he believes that that real love is spiritual. It was nothing less than spiritual love, and spiritual love is basically pretty much love for the world, and that's saying you love everybody no matter what, even no matter if you don't like somebody, you just love them regardless. And I feel like that was pretty important, and despite his significant other saying that even though she had a completely different definition of love, her definition of love was that we find out what her definition was when she starts going into her story of what she believed what real love was. And she starts off and she starts talking about her ex, Ed, and how he would used to abuse her, and he would only confess to her that he loved her when he was abusing her, and that's not love, and that wasn't okay. And this story is very real, because a lot of people can't really tell the difference sometimes, and it's hard to say that, And then I really like this book. I like this short story. I really recommend it. It was really good, and I liked it. And so for So Much Water So Close to Home, basically this one was a really gruesome and chilling short story for me to read, and I was like, I want more. It was so good. I would definitely recommend it for sure, because when you read it, it's just so captivating, and I could not stop reading, and it was so good. Basically what happens is you have your stereotypical guys trip, and these four husbands, they go out on this trip and they find a corpse, and they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And they kind of just blow it off, and they wait 2 days and they don't do anything about the body, and they're just like, whatever, we can deal with that later, we're tired, we don't want to do anything, and they're drinking, so of course they're gonna kind of blow it off. And then later on, we find out when one of the husbands comes home his name's Stuart. Once Stuart comes home, he meets with his wife Claire, and he kind of just ignores her. And and I found that kind of weird, because when you come home from a trip, you think you'd tell somebody everything about the trip. And this also develops the theme upon isolation, because after everything that had occurred in the past few days regarding this body and this trip, he's kind of just settling, and he's kind of closing himself up, so that way he's not trying to affect anybody. For example, one of the quotes from the story was, "What are you staring at me for?" And Stuart was saying that in regards to Claire, and basically she was staring at him because he seemed like a stranger at this dinner when they were having dinner, and he wasn't really talking or acknowledging her. He was just kind of just blowing her off, and I was like, and I felt like that also develops upon this theme of isolation, and how hiding things is just gonna cause your relationship to go into shambles, because it really proves, because he's this stranger and things aren't okay. I really recommend this book, and it's a really this short story. Okay, and so I really recommend this short story. These works were very typical of Raymond Carver, and he really expands upon the whole everyday lives and everyday problems of the average person. And I feel like it was really important that he addressed these, because he's like, hey, these aren't okay, and we need to fix those. And I overall really recommend both of these short stories. Thanks.